In the shadowy depths of Japanese mythology, there are creatures so powerful, so dangerous, that even the bravest warriors trembled at their names. These are not demons you can defeat with a sword or a spell. These are yokai that bend the laws of nature itself, creatures that have survived for centuries, manipulating reality to their whims. Today, we're ranking the 5 most powerful yokai in all of Japanese folklore, and by the end, you'll understand why ancient Japan lived in constant fear of these beings. But here's the thing. Power in Japanese mythology isn't just about physical strength. The most dangerous yokai are the ones that can't be killed, the ones that exist between worlds, the ones that can remake reality with a thought. So buckle up, because we're about to dive into a ranking that will challenge everything you think you know about Japanese supernatural creatures. Let's start with a creature that most people overlook, but shouldn't. Number 5 on our list is the Tengu. Now, you might remember us mentioning the Tengu in our Yokai deep dive, but what makes this creature so powerful deserves its own spotlight. The Tengu is not just a warrior demon. The Tengu is a being that exists in multiple states simultaneously. Some are said to be the reincarnated spirits of arrogant monks or fallen warriors, cursed to wander mountain peaks for eternity. Others are described as ancient spirits of the mountains themselves, older than human civilization. The most famous Tengu can shapeshift flawlessly. They can become humans, animals, or pure energy. They can teleport across mountains in seconds. They can manipulate wind and weather with gestures. But what makes the Tengu truly powerful is something more subtle. They can teach. The legendary samurai Minamoto no Yoshitsune was trained in combat by a Tengu on Mount Kurama, and this training made him arguably the greatest warrior Japan has ever seen. The Tengu can unlock human potential in ways that no mortal teacher can. The most powerful Tengu, called the Daitengu or Great Tengu, are said to be thousands of years old. They have accumulated so much spiritual power that they can influence the outcome of wars, corrupt governments, and possess entire temples. Unlike the Kappa or Yokai that hunt individuals, the Tengu operates on a civilizational scale. A single Tengu can reshape the fate of a kingdom. But here's the catch. The Tengu is not purely malicious. It can be reasoned with. It respects honor, strength, and cunning. This makes it powerful in a different way than raw destruction. Moving up, we reach our number 4 slot, a creature that bridges the living world and the world of the dead. The Yuki-onna, the Snow Woman, is not just beautiful or deadly. She is death incarnate, a being that is literally made of winter itself. You cannot kill the Yuki-onna because she is not truly alive. She is a manifestation of nature's cruelest season, given form and consciousness. As long as winter exists, the Yuki-onna exists. What makes her so terrifying is not her individual victims, but her scope. She doesn't hunt one person. She hunts entire caravans. In mountain passes during blizzards, villages have reported seeing her dance through the snow, and within hours, entire merchant expeditions have vanished, frozen where they stood. She can freeze a human from the inside out with a single breath. She can lower the temperature around her until all moisture in the air becomes deadly ice crystals. She moves through snowstorms like a fish through water, absolutely invisible until it's too late. But there's something even more disturbing about the Yuki-onna. She can choose to become human, not temporarily, but permanently. She can live among humans, build a family, integrate into society. The most famous tale tells of one who fell in love with a woodcutter and lived as his wife for years, bearing children, showing genuine love and affection. But her true nature could never fully fade. The Yuki-onna represents a power that transcends the physical, the power to exist in 2 states at once, to be both monster and human, both deadly and capable of mercy. Her power is not just in her ability to kill. It's in her power to redefine what it means to be alive. Now we're entering territory where power becomes almost abstract. Number 3 is the Kitsune, specifically the ancient nine-tailed Kitsune. Not all Kitsune are equally powerful. A young Kitsune might have 1 or 2 tails. A mature Kitsune might have 5 or 6. But the nine-tailed Kitsune, that creature has lived for centuries, accumulating knowledge, magical power, and spiritual influence to levels that transcend normal comprehension. The nine-tailed Kitsune can see the past and the future. It can shapeshift so perfectly that even the most perceptive humans cannot tell the difference between the Kitsune and the person it has become. It can create illusions so detailed and convincing that thousands of people can share the same false reality. It can manipulate human emotions on a mass scale, causing entire villages to love it, fear it, or worship it. But here's what makes the ancient Kitsune truly powerful. It can achieve godhood. In Japanese folklore, the most powerful Kitsune eventually transcend their nature and become kami, gods. They ascend to heaven, join the celestial bureaucracy, and gain influence over natural phenomena. A nine-tailed Kitsune that achieves godhood can control weather, influence harvests, and reshape the spiritual landscape of entire regions. The scariest part: the Kitsune doesn't need to defeat you in combat. It doesn't need raw physical power. It wins through intelligence, patience, and the manipulation of reality itself. Some scholars believe that certain nine-tailed Kitsune have been active in human affairs for over 1,000 years, shaping the course of Japanese history from the shadows. They might have been advisors to emperors, or lovers to powerful lords, or even shrine priestesses, and no one ever knew. This brings us to number 2, a creature that doesn't just kill or manipulate but literally embodies chaos and destruction. The Orochi, also called the eight-headed serpent, is one of the oldest creatures in Japanese mythology. The most famous Orochi was defeated by the storm god Susanoo in the Age of Gods, but legends say that Orochi was not truly killed, merely sealed, imprisoned in spiritual bindings that grow weaker with time. The Orochi is not bound by the same rules as other yokai. It is a being from the Age of Chaos, when the world itself was still forming. The Orochi is massive. Each of its 8 heads is as large as a mountain. Its body is so long that it spans entire valleys. It breathes poison. It devours hundreds of people at a time. It can resurrect itself from any wound. In one legend, even after being beheaded and dismembered, it regenerated new heads from its severed necks. Only divine weapons forged by gods could permanently harm it, and even then, it took the full might of a celestial deity to seal it away. But what makes the Orochi truly powerful is something more fundamental. It is older than human civilization. It remembers times before Japan existed as a concept. It carries within itself knowledge of magic and power that predates written history. Some say that if the Orochi were ever fully released, it would not just destroy Japan. It would unmake the spiritual foundations that hold the entire world together. It is a creature of such ancient, primal power that modern humans lack even the vocabulary to describe what it can do. Yet all of this pales in comparison to what sits at number 1. The supreme power in Japanese folklore is not a single creature, but a category of beings, the kami. But if we're talking about a specific yokai that reaches god-like status, there is one that stands above all others, the Great Mother Kitsune, or the primordial Kitsune that is said to exist outside of time and space. But more accurately, the most powerful entity that is still considered a yokai rather than purely a god is something even more terrifying. The Gashadokuro-level being, or more precisely, a phenomenon called the Deija, the Great Snake. Actually, let me reconsider. The most powerful yokai, the one that truly ranks above all others, is something that doesn't have a name in most folklore. It is the concept of Mononoke itself. the collective consciousness of all yokai, all spirits, all supernatural beings in Japan acting as one entity. But if we must name a single, identifiable yokai as the most powerful, it is this: the Tsuchigumo, the earth spider, when it reaches its ultimate form. In its most ancient form, the Tsuchigumo is not an individual spider, but a colony of consciousness, a hive mind of supernatural intelligence that can spread across entire landscapes. It can manipulate the earth itself, cause earthquakes, open chasms, and trap souls in its webs for eternity. The most terrifying tale of the Tsuchigumo describes how one such being trapped an entire samurai army underground, weaving a web so vast and complex that the soldiers marched in circles for 3 days before they understood they were not in a physical place anymore. They had been caught in a spiritual web that existed between dimensions. Half of them went mad. The other half faded from reality entirely, becoming yokai themselves. But honestly, if we're ranking pure, undeniable power, we must acknowledge that the true number one most powerful yokai is one that ancient Japan feared above all others: the collective force of nature itself, embodied as the Aramitama, the rough spirit. This is not a single being, but the untamed, chaotic force of nature that underlies all creation. It is the power that causes tsunamis, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. It is the raw, destructive chaos that exists in every storm, every flood, every disaster. When the Aramitama is invoked in human form, it becomes a yokai of such absolute power that even gods must negotiate with it rather than battle it. Yet here's the most important realization: power in Japanese mythology is not about dominance. It's about balance. The most powerful yokai are often the ones that understand this balance and respect it. The Yuki-onna shows mercy. The Tengu can be reasoned with. The Ancient Kitsune seeks ascension to godhood, not eternal domination. Even the Orochi, terrifying as it is ultimately bound by cosmic law. So which yokai would win in a direct fight? That's the wrong question. The right question is, which yokai has learned to exist beyond the need to fight? And that, ultimately, is the truest power: the power to transcend, to transform, to become something greater than what you were. That is what the greatest yokai of Japanese folklore have all achieved. Which of these 5 yokai do you think is actually the most powerful? And more importantly, which one would you least want to encounter in real life? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Japanese mythology, subscribe for more explorations into the legendary creatures that shaped an entire culture.